here go. Welcome, LT. How you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Fred.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So, this is one of these recordings we're doing about how companies do over time. And you're just coming up on the end of your year of advisory board services. You presented probably 13, 14 months ago. And so my first question is, so how's it going?
I am having a lot of fun. The funny part about it is that you never know what to expect when you start a new project and when you work with an advisory board. And from where we were and started out in 2017 and all the bumps and the roads and the path to go, we're literally about to launch our candidate beta testing site on the 21st of January. So I'm extremely excited to bring the vision that I had a while back into fruition.
So now, LT, you're one of these folks that's astonishingly good at communicating with people. You've done more public relations around your company than I think anybody else we've ever dealt with. You've been on TV, radio, podcasts, webcasts, nationwide. You've been, international. You have a regular show, right?
Exactly. And the thing is that because of my background, I spent 20 years in the entertainment industry, artist developing new artists. So I understand how important it is to build a brand and bring things to life. And that's why I went into recruiting. But I also understand how it's important to make sure you tell the story or leave breadcrumbs of your story to the marketplace. And that's why it's such a heavy focus for me being a marketing executive, right?
Right. Now, you started out with an idea, right? This is the classic case of I have an idea, I want to turn it into reality. So you, for the last 5 years, you became a recruiter, right?
Right. Actually, this year it will be my 7th year as a recruiter. And in 2017, I had a thought and I kind of shrugged it off like, I can't do that. And it wasn't until a colleague of mine who was working with me said, we should create a platform. And she just said a little glimpse of that. And I literally stopped because it was everything I was thinking of at the time I first had that thought, and I shrugged it off. And I knew there was something here that I had to contend with. I could not run from what I felt was destined. So I literally sat down for 10 minutes and I said nothing. And for me,
yeah, you are not a person to sit down for 10 minutes and say nothing, even in your sleep.
Well, I do in my own time, but even when I needed experts' advice, I talk to myself. So, it was really interesting of the staff.
You give yourself good advice when you talk to yourself?
Well, I always say when I need an expert's advice, if you see me talking to myself, sometimes I need an expert's advice. That's my joke. So
there you go.
For them
Excellent. So we're looking at your site here.
Okay.
And so one of the things, it took me a while to pick up on this. But you are not, these other job boards and even these huge multi-billion-dollar ones, these are just dating services.
Absolutely.
Right. So basically, candidates put up their information, companies put up their information, they can sort of look at each other, and if they want to start talking, that's fine. vCandidates, the way you described it, and you're much better at it than me, but I'll just try. This is the next generation. This is the problem with the job boards is they disintermediated the professionals, the HR professionals, the hiring professionals that actually know how to get good matches. And what you're doing is you're putting those professionals back in, making them more efficient and more effective. And it's just like real estate. At first, there were just real estate search engines, and all the realtors thought, they were going to go out of business. But it turned out they just got more business and got more efficient at it. Exactly. So where did you get this concept, and what exactly are you doing that's just completely different from everybody else?
It's mind-boggling that so many companies want to replace the human aspect of human resources with technology and remove those recruiting professionals, because at the end of the day, no matter how many times you try, you have to come down to a human element. I mean, there's literally robocalls that people are using for interviewing right now, because
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So there's no human being. They just do, hi, I'm a robot. Please tell me, what would you do if, the person next to you spat at you? And you answer the question and they do the recording. Do they then have automated robots that read the recordings, or how do they do that?
Exactly. It's transposed into emails, or you can listen to the vocals. And realistically, it's as if you're calling into any company and answering questions before you actually get to a person.
Press 7 if you would throw a pie in their face.
It's
Press 4.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so what we decided, it's like, as a recruiter, I placed 600 people in less than 6 years. I've worked with Tesla, MSC Industrial Supply, major corporations and industries all across the country. It's the human aspect that has helped me be so successful, working with either small agencies or Robert Half, all the way down to owning my own agency. When you remove me as the gunslinger, would be, for example, when you see the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, they have the Greek army, massive. They have the Trojans, which represents the candidates. And then you have Achilles and his band, which actually go to breach the walls. It's Achilles that makes the first line of contact. And when you have a recruiter working with a candidate, they're going to get vital information regarding the company. They're going to get information regarding the culture. They're going to get more reasons to dispel any negativity they've heard about this company. So to take a recruiter out of that process, you're leaving yourself open to have someone that's not going to commit. That's why, dropout rates are so high in hiring. And you're going to make sure that you turn off the candidate because they're not invested.
All right, LT, I'm not going to let you go on forever because, you could be in Congress. You could be in Congress. That's after you make your first billion at this and give me, 50 million of it, then I want you to run for Congress because you're perfect for it.
Thank you.
So I was just looking here. So when you started out, you had a partner,
yes,
right, a business partner, and basically nothing else, as I recall. I might be mistaken, but
no, that was it.
But over that year or so that we've been working with you, you no longer have that co-founder, and you have a team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 people.
Yes.
And these are good people. This isn't just the worker bees. These are, people that are, up in the infrastructure. So this is really building a company, right? So,
yes.
So tell me about, a little bit about the trials and tribulation and how you came out of it and how you've gotten to this team level. Obviously, being a recruiter, you can find people, but getting them to, work with you you're unable to pay them yet. You're just starting to get, your applications being released. You're just going to start getting cash flow now, and you've got an investment dollar. So give us the evolution in short time.
Well, basically, I went from having, someone that really could understand the vision to, realistically learning that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And even though people love great ideas and they understand what the results will be if it happens, there is a road in between A and Z. And, that relationship had to end. However, very intricate part of friendship with me. So that's great. But building this team really came down to finding like-minded people that wanted to have the same vision, which was wanted to be a benefit to the candidate, to be a candidate advocate. And because they either had personal stories themselves where they had issues or knew of someone where how hard it would be. So we made sure that we helped with sweat equity to reward those that could be faithful to help building this dream. And, it's dynamic where my CIO and my CTO, they're actually our developers offshore that actually have put equity into, their resources and money into the company to be our development partners, more so than just having us as vendors. And it's really just about how you create the relationships with people. When they trust that you can lead them and lead the vision, you will build a dynamic team.
Okay, now you said the words sweat equity, and I know a little bit about sweat equity, but give me a sense, give everybody that's listening a sense. So how many hours a day over the last year have you spent, including weekends, averaged out on this business?
Oh my gosh. I would say very easily, I spend 80 hours a week on this business. I don't work on Saturdays, but Sundays I do get up and work as if it's the first day of the week for me. So I have spent every wakening hour, as much as I possibly can, because I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to start dealing with Pakistan, and I start dealing with people around the country, and I work hard. But I do make sure I get 6 hours of sleep. That's the trick.
All
Um,
right, 6 hours of sleep, and on Saturdays, 12 to 14 to make up for it, right?
exactly. But I literally eat, drink, breathe vCandidates, and I know it so well. It's like the skin that covers my bones.
All right,
So
your family. Let's talk about your family.
my wonderful family. I have two beautiful sons. One is in his first year of college. The other one just got out of college. And I'm a newlywed. I've been married less than 3 years, but I make sure that I come home and cook three meals a week for my family. I make sure that I carve out time for my husband so that he is a priority. And I make sure that I carve out time for my girlfriends and family so that I have a support system and rest. Very important.
Okay. So now we all know it's a strain, right? That is, it's a strain on your relationships, on your family. Obviously, you had essentially a breakup with your business partner who you've known for years.
Yeah.
And and so at the end of the year, I did my recounting of the last year and the things that made companies fail. And number one on that list is that those interpersonal issues and co-founders breaking up. You
Right.
managed to survive it. So
Yeah.
you just, tell everybody, so what did you do? What is it about you, or what did you have to do to survive that?
There's two things. One, I don't know how to stop. Once I start something and I believe in what I'm doing, there is no turn off button. One, no matter what frustrations come up, no matter how disenchanted I go, I just keep pushing. I go to sleep, I wake up, and I start over. And two, when I make commitments to the team that I have, when I make commitments to my investors and advisory boards, I now have a responsibility to forge forward. So there is no quitting. That's my personality, good, bad, or indifferent, but I don't know how to not do. And I think that's what really helps me drive this bus.
All right, I only have two others for you, and they're, of course, obviously the most painful, but you're managing to get over it. One of them was when we got towards the end of internal diligence, which is our version of due diligence, the internal version. You were getting pretty unhappy with me, pissed off. Okay. I I thought if you were next door, you might have come over and shot me.
Never.
But you got over that frustration, and somehow you flipped over and said, no, I'm just going to do this. And you ended up, with a nice internal diligence document, and that's worked really, really well for you. Is that right?
Yes, because, I had to stop and check myself. Why was I getting frustrated? Why was this becoming painful? And, having advisors is not an easy thing because sometimes you just want people to tell you you're warm and fuzzy. But when they come to tell you the truth and they put that mirror up into, I had to figure out what was the purpose of this adverse information or suggestions or something that was going against what I wanted. And when I really looked at it and I said, they're in it the same way I am in it. They'll win and they'll lose the same way I do. And once I got over my ego and myself, I embraced the fact that I knew what you were suggesting was the best advice that you could. So let me sit down, chew the meat, spit the bone, make sure it stayed focused onto the guidelines of what I wanted. And at the end, it was the best advice I could have had. Because it's
And just to be clear, our advisory stuff, we don't have any force and effect, and you ignored some of the things we said and you embraced some of the things we said, and that's the idea, right?
Well, absolutely, because sometimes I've seen colleagues of mine that did everything the advisory board told them to do, and they lost their sense of self. And so I was growing and being stretched by you and didn't realize that I was growing in a way that I had to make sure that I contended with, I'm the parent and everyone else is daycare or the schools, and I've got to stay focused on what I'm doing. And it did cause friction, but look at the end result of what we have.
All right, so let's just talk about that. And this is the last question. This has to do with money, and obviously when you run out of money, you're dead, right? As a
Yes.
business.
Yes.
When that bank account hits zero, well, actually that's not quite true, but it's pretty bloody close to the truth. So you've been in, very close to death a couple of times, and now you've gotten somehow magically over the hump where you can get people to start putting money in, and now of course you're increasing the valuation, so they get less value for more money, well, more value but less equity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so tell me, what was it like as you hit those bottoms, and how did you survive it? And now that you're sort of on the way up, what twisted that thing? What got you past that?
When I realized that as a startup, there's in my mind, I compartmentalized it. We're not a business until we're in business earning revenue. Until then, we are a startup. And so many other major businesses have been in startup form and had to almost close their doors. And if I can focus on getting myself out of the startup phase and into the business and stay focused on that, it would be great. And that's why some of the partnerships had to be alleviated. Some staff had to leave because they were looking at this as a business and we hadn't earned our first dollar. So we couldn't compare ourselves to the businesses. We had to still remember we are startup and we're crawling. And this is part of the process.
Now that included a point in time when you had to put things into stasis and make progress by just convincing people out of your sheer will that they should continue working with you and be part of the vision, and actually, instead of getting paid, put money in, right?
You know what? I believe that the people that I have aligned myself with strategically not only understand the vision, but they trust me running the vision. And they trust that if there's anybody that can make it happen, it's you. And I've had people say, I just want to come and work in the same space that you're at because your energy is so infectious, it's going to motivate me. So by just them trusting in me, I do what I say, I tell them what can be done, what can't be done, I give it to them straight, no chaser. They saw this girl's going to have the integrity to do what she says. And as long as I continue to do that, it's just open doors for me. I remember walking into a room and I asked the person, I said, hey, who do you know? And the person knew 2 people. And out of that, I got $20,000 in 2 weeks.
There you
Just
go.
because I kept asking the questions.
All right. LT, I want to let you go because I know that you're spending, 80 hours a week and spending another 20 minutes with me beyond what you're already spending with me. And the whole board's meeting tomorrow, of course, for our last meeting at the end of our year. I just want, everybody to know how supportive we are of you. And also, please, you're going to start to make money in the next couple of months.
Yes.
Please get me rich.
Well, you know what? That is my intent, but more so than that, I want those that have believed in me and helped me, I want to make them proud. That is the driving force that I have, is that I want to be able to make a difference, to disrupt an industry, to change and correct some things, and make those that, stepped out with me proud. That's it.
Right. So it's not all about the money. You're doing well by doing good. That's a fundamental, right?
That's the fundamental. And when you chase money, it runs away quicker. I tend to let money chase me.
All right. Thank you very much, LT.